Let's get the grades, Grayson's grades, over at 97.3 ESPN.com, where the Eagles lose 29-23 on the road, and a couple of Fs handed out. Let's start with those, Scott, where the main culprit that gets the F last night goes to the head football coach, Doug Peterson. Apparently you didn't care for the game that he called last night.
No, I just felt it was a step back in a lot of regards. I mean, everything was going to the perimeter. I didn't mind him giving Sproles more of an opportunity, but, I mean, they never ran up, north-south. I feel like I'm talking about Chip Kelly a little bit. Everything was east-west, and then eventually we get a cornering going. I didn't like giving Wendell Smallwood his first carry in the fourth quarter. I mean, after you've managed three quarters with Matthews and Sproles, why all of a sudden are you throwing him in then? I mean, get him active in the first quarter or the second quarter, sometime in the first half. Anybody's going to touch the ball, including Barner. Get them going then a little bit in the first half, too. And then the time management. I mean, of all the things that head coaches need to do, it's managing the clock. And, the one at the end of regulation, everything odds-wise is saying you'll have a shot to at least touch the ball. You're one play, one shake and bake away from maybe, taking care of that in regulation. And then after such a long drive in overtime, after such a long game, how do you not use a timeout just to even give your defense a breather? I know we're talking 30 seconds or so, but still give them that chance to just get a drink of water, stand there, try to figure out, how to get ready to play the next play. They let Dallas go all over them there in overtime, and it really obviously cost them the game. I just think there's a lot of things that Doug Peterson has done well at times this season that he didn't do last night.
Yeah, he had a rough one. I want to get your take real quick, Scott, on Wendell Smallwood, because you did cover him when you covered West Virginia the last couple of years. And I think a fumble by Smallwood, what kind of back he is and what he excels at, what he does well. What did he do well when he was at West Virginia? You saw pretty much every one of his games in college. So is he being used properly, do you think, in the NFL?
No, haven't seen that yet. No, I don't think so. Some of the times in the past couple of games when he's gotten a carry and he's done something with it, what has he done? He's north-south. He's a guy who, like Ryan Matthews, wants to get the ball and just head upfield. His forte is not to have a sweep or swing around the side of the offensive line and try to take it up that way. And that's what they asked him to do last night. Now, he's got to put two arms on the ball, what we've knocked Ryan Matthews for doing in the past, to make sure that he's securing it, especially in the fourth quarter in those situations with the lead. But his forte is to get the ball, run upfield, and run over somebody or try to break off a run after contact. And, he also is very good at getting out of the backfield. If you want to swing him around the outside, swing him around the side, then get him the ball and let him go upfield. That's what he does. He's got great hands, and I don't think he's being used effectively or efficiently right now. And I heard you guys talking before you brought me on. I think you could argue some of that about several players on this team right now.
Scott Grayson's with us. Grayson's grades on a Monday here on 97.3 ESPN. And Scott, Nelson Agholor, a big story today. What grade did you give him?
I gave him a D. I just think that, he's just not asserting himself in this offense. And when he has a chance, I mean, look, you're in the NFL. If the ball hits you in the hands, you got to catch it. There's just no other way to say it. And there he was on a slant, right. I thought it was a pretty good, route run by him. He had room, makes the catch. He's going to turn it upfield for some extra yards. And it probably took his eye off the ball, but it hit him right in the hands. Perfect pass. And he dropped it. And then, you can't blame Wentz for not going back to him very much.
Missed a block, too. Missed a block, too, early in the game.
Very early in the game.
Yep. Yeah, and it's just every time you get the sense that, maybe Agholor's about to turn a corner, he runs into a wall and backs up a few steps. And so we're just here we are. And I know that, Chris Collinsworth was saying you're expecting more from him than what you've gotten out of him. And I know everybody here in Philadelphia feels that way. It's been disappointing. And honest to God, I think I'm going to be more surprised if Howie Roseman does not make a deal for a wide receiver here than if he stays put.
D for his play on the field and an F for his comments after?
Yeah, I mean, when you start making it about yourself, that's never a good thing. And that's how you start seeing a locker room, break apart a little bit and fall. That's one thing I think I've really liked about this team this season so far is that they've seemed like a very tight-knit group. Wentz came in early on, won over the defensive side of the ball, both sides were believing in each other. All it takes is a couple of cracks in the foundation, and then it'll start falling apart. And hopefully Agholor's not starting to light a bonfire in there, but he definitely didn't do any help for the team with the comments he's made.
A few more catches last night for Dorial Green-Beckham. How did he grade out in your Grayson's grades?
I gave him a C. He had 5 passes for 55 yards, but, he had a big drop too. These drops are just really – they take you out of what you're doing. They kill a drive, and it's it looks like it's becoming contagious around that receiver room. Jordan Matthews had at least one. Dorial Green-Beckham had at least one or two. And then the other thing that I'm surprised at is, and maybe this goes back to Doug Peterson, but when you get in the red zone, isn't he the ideal guy to start trying to throw the ball to in the end zone? I just don't understand with his size how he's not worked himself into that go-to guy in the red zone, and it hasn't happened, and that's perhaps on him. But I was happy to see him be more involved early in the game, but he's got to make those catches when they hit him as well in the hand.
Scott Grayson's got all the Grayson's grades posted right now at 973ESPN.com. You gave Jim Schwartz a D, a little mixed, for me in terms of the defense had a mixed bag night. I mean, they came out a little, I thought Dallas had a great drive early. I don't know why they got away from Elliott at all in that game, but when they did get away from Elliott, I thought the Eagles defense did a decent job. They got some pressure. But for the most part, and then Peterson, basically relied on the defense, and a lot of his reasoning why he didn't do certain things because he thought the defense was playing so well. And yet you saw Schwartz as a D. What didn't you like?
I didn't like the fact that, when he started getting pressure and you started seeing Dak look like a rookie, he went away from that. I think, you got to keep dialing that up, especially there late in the game and in overtime. It looked like they got a little passive. And from a defensive standpoint, look, you need to get the ball back, and you've got to stick with what's been working. I mean, they dominated for the most part defensively, and this is where I give Jim Schwartz a lot of credit. I think he's usually really good at making adjustments. They made adjustments at halftime to start taking away Zeke, and then they were dialing in on Dak, and then we get to overtime, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we're gonna play here to just wait for them to make a mistake, and they never did. And I just didn't like that kind of philosophy. Keep getting after him, keep getting after Dak, keep trying to make something happen. He just went back to, well, I'll send my front four and see if they can get there, and if not, we should be okay. Well, that wasn't the case, and I didn't like that kind of philosophy. I feel like he took his foot off the gas pedal when he started to have the Cowboys and Dak Prescott in the spot where they want him. And, I know he's without Benny Logan, and Benny Logan would have been a big help in trying to slow down Zeke whenever Zeke got going a little bit. Now, for the most part, I thought they did what they needed to do, but I just didn't think when the game was there for them to do what they had to do that they did it. And I'm blaming Jim Schwartz for that.
You can check out the full list of grades at 973ESPN.com. Grayson's grades after every Eagles game. Scott, we said at the start of the show that you could literally put a reason on a piece of paper, rip them up, throw them in a hat, and pull one out, and you could justify that reason being why the Eagles lost last night. But which reason, in your mind, is why Philly loses 29-23? What's the number one reason for you?
I just feel like they just never took the game with both hands when they had it. It felt like so many times, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, if they could have punched the ball in the end zone, if they could have done something to break the game open, and they didn't do it. And the other thing that's really frustrating to me, too, is how are we not throwing the ball down the field? I mean, how is Doug Peterson not taking shots to loosen up the defense? And, again, we said this with Chip Kelly, too. You've got a guy with a big-time arm back there in Carson Wentz. If you find a one-on-one battle, this tells you, I guess, what he thinks about his receivers, but how are you not going in a one-on-one shot? The longest pass downfield was Josh Huff. I didn't understand a lot of that. And so you're right. I think there's a lot of reasons you could have, and you could sit there and you could have a room full of 50 people who come up with 50 different reasons, and they're probably all accurate.
There was a lot of them.
He needs to look in the mirror, and it needs to find a way to come out next week and show that it's still going to compete for this title.
Lot of mistakes, a lot of sloppy, ugly play last night. Scott Grayson has the grades at 97.3 ESPN.com. Eagles, Giants, Grayson's grades next week. Thanks, Scott.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.